So I would love to hear a little bit more about your career path leading up to joining VMware in 2008, and then take us through sort of from then until now what you've been doing.
Sure. For those who don't know, well, my name is Duncan Epping, and I actually started out as a consultant in the Microsoft and Lotus Note space. So I've been working on that. I'd been working on that for a long time, and I was looking for a change. So I started working for this insurance company, and the insurance company had all of the traditional data center problems. So power, cooling, rack space, you name it. So we started to look for a new solution to solve those problems, and I actually encountered this cool solution called VMware ESX back then, virtual infrastructure. So we started working on that, and what we did based on that, we transformed our whole data center. And the technology was so cool that I figured, this is something I want to really get into. So after doing that for a year or two at an insurance company, I decided to move into a consultancy role, so I would be seeing more and more of these different environments. By that time, VMware actually introduced version 3.0, and we had cool stuff like vSphere HA, and vMotion was easier to use. We started to introduce things like DRS, and it became a lot more interesting. So I figured, I'm going to share some of my experiences through blogging, and then when I started blogging, fairly quickly VMware reached out to me. So one of the recruiters reached out to me and said, you seem to be passionate about this. Would you be willing to consider joining us as part of the professional services team? So I moved from a consultancy company into a consultancy role within VMware itself. So what I did, is that better? Okay, so what I did is at VMware I joined as a professional services consultant. So I primarily work with the larger organizations within EMEA, so companies like ING, Rabobank, Shell, those types of companies, and I typically did the design for them. So I worked on the newer architectures for their infrastructures, and I did that for a while. And then after a while, I decided, I'm up for a change. I want to do something new. So I started to look at things like technical marketing. I was already really passionate about blogging, and technical marketing kind of plays in that space. So that's kind of how things started evolving, and I ended up in the office of CTO as part of the storage and availability BU. So that's pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely going from customer to builder of product. Were there things that you felt like you brought uniquely to your role, having been a VMware user turned VMware technologist?
Yeah, I think that's actually the big difference between me and a lot of the people in our organization, is that I've actually used the product. I'm still using the product on a daily basis. And I play around with it, see how it works, see how it doesn't work. I talk to a lot of customers to see what kind of challenges they are facing, and based on the challenges that you guys are facing, and provide feedback to our engineers, our product managers, but also our e-staff, for instance. So depending on the kind of challenges you face, I address it by the audience and try to solve those problems for our customers. And in some cases, as was already mentioned, that could lead to changes within the product. So it was mentioned that for instance, I'm working on 5 patents. So 5 have been submitted. One of them has actually been granted. 4 of them are still going through the process. But that's primarily a result of feedback that I've been getting from other people. So they feel that a certain aspect within the product is missing. So what I try to do is come up with a solution. I hand it over to the engineering team, and they actually start building it. And fortunately enough, they're willing to copy me, or at least include me on the patent. So I'm not the guy building it, right? I'm just the guy who comes up with some of the crazy concepts. But it's cool that you're able to do those kinds of things within an organization as VMware, and also that you get the opportunity to actually grow from being a senior consultant to being in a chief technologist position in such a large company, which is truly an honor.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we put a lot of emphasis within R&D on encouraging folks to file patents and apply and learn that process. I don't know why I'm getting... Okay. So going back to yellowbricks.com, I know that that kind of started out of your interest in VMware products and virtualization in general. How has it kind of evolved over the years? Because you've had it for quite a while, and maybe tell us a little bit about what you're blogging about right now. I know you just pushed one live a minute ago.
Yeah, that's the fun thing with blogging. You can do it anywhere, anytime, if you have access to the internet, which has been challenging occasionally today. You're probably facing the same problems as I am. It's not like I have a secret path to the internet here. It's the same you guys are using. But Apologies for that, by the way. But if you look at what I started out with, basically when I started blogging, I primarily blogged about challenges that I was facing as a consultant. So if I had issues with any particular features, I tried to figure out how I could solve them and share those with other users, right? And based on the challenges that I shared, people started sharing their challenges with me. And I would be looking for problems or looking for solutions for those problems as well and share those again. Now, over time, I think the blog more evolved into a combination of different aspects. So not just deep technical or just purely technical in terms of solving specific problems, but also every once in a while I try to share my opinion about the direction the industry is heading into from a storage perspective or availability perspective. But the other thing I like to do is also cover, for instance, startups. So there's many startups here, and if you walk around on the Solutions Exchange, for instance, there's many small companies that already have a booth, which is really amazing. And what I try to do as well during the couple of spare minutes I have during the day is just visit those booths and try to figure out what they are up to, because in some cases, some of these guys are doing really disruptive things in the industry. There's a couple of new startups in the backup and recovery space, for instance, that are doing, in my opinion, industry-changing things. So I try to focus on that from a blogging angle as well. I mean, I get a lot of exposure through the blog itself, so a lot of those guys reach out to me, and I try to share what they share with me with the rest of the world.
I know you're also really active on other social media channels as well. Fun tidbit, we have an internal social media network, and Duncan's really hot on that as well. He's kind of got a reputation of being a squeaky wheel, but in a good way. Yeah. I think you kind of get people thinking and aren't afraid to speak up, and I know your external social media is the same way. So how do you find time for all of that, though? Because you're traveling all the time. I know you've got a crazy schedule.
Yeah, so trying to find time for that can be difficult, but personally I think it's one of the most important aspects of my role. So I feel as a chief technologist that there's a couple of things that you're responsible for, and one of those things is bringing feedback from customers back to our engineering team, because that's the only way we can improve our products. So I encourage all of you, if you have any challenges, reach out to me on Twitter. I'm not afraid to speak up. So one of the things, for instance, that I was very vocal about was the web client. I know a lot of you guys, and you can see him nodding here, so he's used it quite often. So a lot of customers told me that they felt the performance was lacking when we introduced it with 5.0. It was slightly better with 5.5, but the majority of the changes that you've seen in 6.0 were actually a result of one of the Socialcast threads, which is our internal social media platform. It was one of the results of the threads that I started, and for me, it kind of can sometimes come across as a squeaky wheel or someone who's moaning or complaining, but I just try to rally the troops and get people to start running with something, because in some cases it's really difficult to make a change if you're not speaking up, right? People are not going to listen, so you need to be very vocal. And in my case, if I look at how I handle my time management, typically my wife would say I spend a lot of time in the bathroom or in the shower, which usually means that I sit in the corner, tweet out stuff, write a blog article, and quickly publish it. So,
excellent. And then I think the squeaky wheel element too is all about, you have the customer first in mind, and being able to bring that perspective back to engineering for them to prioritize what's important to our customers versus what's important to this person's feature or that person's feature. So great to know that they have you on their side. So shifting gears a little bit, we're here at VMworld, and just curious, how many VMworlds since you joined have you attended, and what were some standout memories from that?
Yeah, so I actually have to think about it. I can't even recall, because I've been visiting. I've been fortunate enough to be capable of visiting both EMEA and US for the last 6 to 7 years. I've been presenting at most of them since I joined VMware. So I think that's truly unique. For me, that's probably one of the things that stood out to me. What a lot of people don't realize is that they see a lot of people going up on stage, right, and present in front of a larger audience. It's probably one of the most challenging things I ever had to do. So that's the one thing that stood out to me. I think it's about 6 or 7 years ago, I had my very first session ever at VMworld. It was also the very first session I ever did in terms of public speaking, which is usually not a problem if you go up in front of 25, 30 people, which is what I expected. It ended up being more than 700 people in my very first session, so I was very nervous, and unfortunately I managed to make it through. It wasn't the best session I ever did, to admit, but I don't think you can expect that from someone who's doing his first public speaking exercise. But over the course of time, you start getting used to the amount of people in a room, and it becomes more comfortable. So I think that was one of the for me at least life-changing moments. And if I can encourage anyone to do one thing in their lives that will could potentially be life-changing, but also career-changing, it's public speaking. So if there's a local VMUG, or if there's a VMworld event, where you can submit sessions, but I think the VMUGs are typically easy to get into. Share your experience in terms of what you do at work, what kind of projects you have, what kind of challenges you're facing, because it opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
I think the other cool thing that I've done, it's probably 6 years ago, we did the very first VMware Fun Run. So it was one of the running events that actually started out as a tweet. So I tweeted out, said, I'm going to run probably every morning. Who wants to join me? We're probably going to run from the Hilton or the Marriott. So if anyone wants to join, feel free. Within no time, I had 10, 15 people who wanted to run with us. And one of my colleagues said, well, maybe we should just start a group or whatever. We'll end up maybe with 25 people. I said, what, maybe we can do something better and do an event. So I reached out to a couple of my friends who work at larger storage companies and said, would you be willing to do some form of sponsoring? I'm trying to plan like this running event. I don't know how big it's going to be, probably like, 25, 50 people, who knows. So we ended up with over 200 people running the Golden Gate Bridge back and forth. And we had things like buses and trains and T-shirts. And that was an amazing experience, especially because it started out with a single tweet.
Shows the power of social media right there.
Truly, yeah.
It's an annual tradition now, the Fun Run. I think they had it yesterday morning, maybe. Very cool. And then this VMworld particularly, are there certain things you're really excited about going to check out? I know you talked about Solutions Exchange and kind of cruising around for some of the cool new startups. What else are you going to check out at this event that you would also encourage other people? Any shameless plugs for your own?
I would say first and foremost, virtual SAN. I mean, I'm a big evangelist when it comes to software-defined storage. I'm part of the Storage Availability BU. And I've been very passionate about virtual SAN. And the key reason for it being is that virtual SAN is all about simplicity. I mean, a lot of storage companies, when you talk to a storage company, they will typically be talking about things like performance, things like low latency. But I think the key thing with virtual SAN is not that it's from a performance perspective. It's probably one of the best solutions I've seen, but I think the simplicity is key. It's all about how you manage virtual machines, how you assign policies to virtual machines, how you deploy new virtual machines, and how easy it is to set up. It literally takes a couple of clicks. So that's the one thing I've been really excited about. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is the keynote today. There were two people that really stood out to me. Yan Bing. I thought she was really killing it. Great presentation. She showed some really cool technology. vMotion to the cloud was one of the things where I was looking at. I'm like, really? Are we doing that? Is that real? I still recall seeing my first vMotion during VMworld, and now we're actually, that just between hosts, and now we're vMotioning a VM across I don't know how many kilometers or miles of distance into a cloud environment. So that's truly unique. And also the demos that Kit was showing with the container technology, I think that was really impressive also. And it kind of shows, the kind of different things that VMware is doing and the different directions we are looking at as well. So we're not just focused on virtualization from a compute perspective. We're also looking at the networking space. We're looking at the storage space. On top of that, we're also looking at applications and how we can transform the world of IT when it comes to that. So I think that's something that stood out to me during this event.
Excellent. And before we close out, what about outside of work, some hobbies that you have? I know you talked about running, and I'm sure you stay active and fit, and social media as well from a personal perspective. But what else do you like to do with your time?
Well, to be honest, if you look at the amount of time I spend blogging, social media, and then I go out for a run, there isn't really a lot of time left to do anything else. But I do enjoy watching TV shows. So there's many different TV shows I try to follow, probably too many by now. But what we typically do is we'll record a whole season and then watch all of them in a single row, which is kind of painful when you have 5 seasons being backed up and it's already 3 at night, but you still want to see that next episode because it's the last episode of the season. Yeah. But, that's the kind of stuff that happens. I also spend a lot of time with my kids. I've got 2 kids, so I enjoy spending a lot of time with them. They're really into Taekwondo, so I like to support them on that. So they do things like tournaments and you name it, which is really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great interview.
No problem.
I'd love to take questions from the audience. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask Duncan? put your hand up high. We've got a microphone that we can bring to you, or I can bring mine.
Don't be shy, guys.
Oh, there we go.
He's got a question.
What is
Let's
happening to Captain vSAN?
Testing.
Does everyone know who Captain vSAN is? Well, personally, I don't know who he is. I've never met him, so it's difficult to say who's behind Captain vSAN. But what's happening with Captain vSAN? I heard he's really working hard on the upcoming beta version for vSAN. So I don't know if you guys seen the announcements, but there's going to be a beta version of vSAN coming up. So you can subscribe to that. It's actually on my blog, yellowbricks.com. So there's a link in there that allows you to sign up for the beta. And he's now currently working on things like deduplication and checksums. And on top of that, what we're also doing is erasure coding. So that will make virtual SAN a lot more efficient when it comes to storing data. So it will allow you to store a lot more data on a single vSAN node or multiple vSAN nodes than you normally would be able to do. So that's what Captain vSAN is working on today. Great question, by the way, bringing Captain vSAN in. How awesome.
Any other questions in our audience? All right, if there's no more questions, I would love to use my brand new selfie stick to take a selfie with this great audience that we had, Duncan.
Sure.
Because, maybe you could help me get some more followers on Twitter that I don't use. All right. Okay, guys, look alive. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, we got it. Thank you all so much. Have a great
Thanks,
VMworld.
everyone.
We'll see you later.